Thank you for staying with us. It's now time for us to bring you the newspaper review this Wednesday, and what a Wednesday it is.
Yeah, really big Wednesday. No prizes for guessing what the leading talking points are going to be. And of course, we don't do this alone.
Absolutely. We do have Simon Reef, Musa, who is here with us. Simon, good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you
bright
too.
and early. And Dr. Iyobo, thank you so much, Doc.
Good morning.
Hope you're having a good coffee with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's start with this Nigeria. And of course, it starts with 2027. Now campaigns begin. Presidential candidates sign peace pact. Tinubu represented Obi Sowore. Adebayo signed conflicting reports on Atiku, and that's on page 4 of this Nigeria, and that's what you see on the front page. And let's also look at, I think, another bottom page story there. Passport shake-up, Senate backs NIS effort against extortion. 1,000 passports hourly as immigration says new system will curb corruption, and that's the bottom page story. But let's move over to Daybreak this morning. Daybreak is breaking still with zero tariff. I beg your pardon, I think that's the paper of yesterday, but let's go over to Disclosure this morning. 2027, as campaigns begin today, INEC targets over 100 million voters to deploy 1.4 million ad hoc staff in 176,000 polling units. Political parties earmark over 1.3 trillion naira for advertorials. APC to spend 70% of the total sum, and that is the riding factor to that story. Also, you also want to go to the Nigerian pilot, which is next. Still looking at presidential NAS campaigns kickoff story there. It says 2027 presidential NAS campaigns kick off. Tinubu, Obi, others sign peace accord on issue-based campaigns. Shun ethnic religious politics, says Tinubu, warns that campaigns must strengthen, not divide. NDC flag bearer P2B says he's not afraid of 2027 elections, urges Nigerians to ensure their votes count, as IPAC cautioned politicians, supporters against hate speech, violence, and that's on page 8.
Okay, let's spin over to the Daily Asset. The Daily Asset leads with Tinubu, Jonathan seek new rules for peaceful elections. With the riders, elections not do or die, says Tinubu. Jonathan warns against turning off-cycle polls into power contests. That's on the front page of the Daily Asset. And from the Daily Asset, we move to the Daily Newscraft. Daily Newscraft says Osun decides 2026. Jonathan accuses APC leaders of bullying, undermining democracy. With the riders, reps seek probe of Fadaunsi police over election killings. Oyebamiji accepts Adeleke's victory. Victory, not Tinubu's defeat, says Wike.
All right, let's also look at that bottom page story there. Pandefli, the Gallowans against over-centralized system, 6 power evolution. But the Daily Monitor looks at Tinubu pledges peaceful campaign, says elections not a do-or-die affair. Warns political stakeholders against violence, hate speech, misinformation, artificial intelligence-generated content. INEC 6 peaceful election campaign, says campaign should be marketplace of ideas, not theater of war. Just above the masthead, you see 2027 still in that story. Ordinary Nigerians need to see measurable improvement in their lives, and that's coming from Archbishop Matthew Kuka. Urges Nigerians to actively participate in elections, says credible polls should not be left solely to INEC.
Okay, to the Nigerian News Direct. Influx of VIPs, governors during elections, a threat to democratic stability. Jonathan, that's former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, saying influx of VIPs, governors during elections, a threat to democratic stability. The lead headline on today's Nigerian News Direct.
All right, let's also look at that story on the Daily Sun this morning. Jonathan faults APC governor's involvement in Osun poll, says show of force undemocratic. 6 new rules for off-cycle elections. Wabara, Adeleke's victory, triumph of people's will. And that's the lead story with its riders just below on the Daily Sun.
Okay, and another interesting development as we get ready to kick off campaigns 2027. Presidential, governorship, NAS candidates sign peace accord. That's on the front page of Al Jazeera midweek. 2027 presidential, governorship, National Assembly candidates sign peace accord.
Over to leadership, and let's see how they sail this time. And of course, it's still from the shores of us. Presidential campaigns begin today. Tinubu, Obi, Duke, Showore, others sign peace accords. Atiku absent. Amupiton says election credibility would depend on parties, candidates' conduct, and that's on page 6. And of course, you also find there insecurity won't stop free, fair elections in 2027. That's Yari speaking on page 17. But above the mastheads, Abuja flood, all houses built on water channels will go down. Vows Wiki, and that's on page 16.
All right, to the Authority newspaper this Wednesday. Armed forces ready for 2027 elections. That's the defense minister saying that. Warns against cyber threats, misinformation. Armed forces ready for 2027 elections. Defense minister, the lead headline on Wednesday's edition of the Authority.
All right, let's also go to the Daily Global this morning. 2027, Tinubu will win with ease, says Wike. I think is that an assurance and affirmation? So yeah, I don't know, but that's what the Daily Global is telling us this morning.
When campaigns have started, you surely know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, FCT Minister reiterates commitment to December deadline for completion of key ongoing projects in the FCT, and that's the front page of the Daily Global.
Okay, to Observer's Times, Osun 2026, Adeleke distances itself from ADC Alliance. Osun 2026, Adeleke distances itself from ADC Alliance with the riders, says accord won through people's support, not through an opposition merger. ADC's Bolaji Abdullahi insists on strategic cooperation to avoid vote splitting.
All right, just that story on the Observer's Times, for it says state, federal government, local governments share 3 trillion naira as July revenue rose by 658 billion naira. Now to the Whistler. Whistler is still talking, Osun there. It says 43 billion naira spent, 29 killed as vote buying security saw election cost investigation. And now the rider says political spending exceeds half of state's 2025 IGR. Akpabio Dangote called me to delete Osun election updates. Davido. Oyebamiji accepts INEC's decision to declare Adeleke winner. Stop turning off-cycle elections into war. Jonathan warns, and that's coming to you on page 7.
Okay, and just above the masthead of the Whistler, you see FCCPC probes price manipulation in Nigeria as cement hits 15,000 naira per bag. Of course, we're going to be looking at that a little later on our review. And there you are. If you go straight to the Business NG, it talks just about that. FG probes cement industry as prices surge to 15,000 naira per bag. Cheaper in Kenya, Togo than Nigeria. That's what the FCCP says.
That's a warning sign. People might just as well be flying instruments from
Yes,
across borders. But Standard Time says fact, federal government, states, local governments share 3.007 trillion naira in July. Revenue jumps 17.8%, and that's what Standard Times. And it's still talking about the peace accord. Tinubu Obi, others sign peace accord ahead of 2027 elections.
Okay, to the New National Star, hope rises as U.S. halts sanction on Nigerian vessels. The writer tells us more, says ends 12-year condition of entry at U.S. ports, lifting a major milestone for maritime sector, according to Oyetola, and Nigeria needs regulatory trade overhaul, according to the World Bank. All these riders to the headline, hope rises as U.S. halts sanction on Nigerian vessels. Lead headline on today's New National Star.
Well, just there's also WAEC results dispute deepens as schools seek review on page 7. That's still a story that is ongoing. But GWG.ng takes it away, says WAEC roll first. Davido defies Okpeholo, says he beat 17 governors. But the lead story there is you also find Access Bank battles 71 banks over 1.3 billion stolen from its customers' accounts. And that's what you find as their lead story this morning.
Okay, I think that's where we put the lid on
Absolutely.
the papers that we'll be looking at today. And it's time for us to actually start talking. Yes, of course. The campaigns, it's the campaigns, I guess. I don't know, some people said that's what everybody has been waiting for. Some people have said that that's what they've been trying to avoid.
Some people started at midnight.
All right, so the campaigns are officially here.
Yeah, but unofficially, the campaign has been on.
Absolutely.
You've seen the sharing of rice. We've seen the presidential candidate moving to virtually all parts of the countries where he called it consultation. But I think unofficially, the campaign started months ago. But according to the INEC guidelines, where the campaign will start, is it today? Yeah, today.
Yes.
You see, campaign is a period where any candidate in any elections will tell Nigerians what he will do for them by the time you become governor, president, or senators, or House of Rep member. You know, it's like you are looking for a job. You go to somebody that's going to employ you. You need to convince him why you need to get that job. Ordinarily, that is what campaign is all about. But in the past, we've seen some presidential candidates who even refuse to appear before debate. They will tell you that, look, I'm not interested in a TV debate. I'm only interested in going to the grassroots, to talk to the people. Those are the people who vote, Because at the end of the day, they end up not being able to defend why they want to be president of Nigeria before the Nigerians. Some of them believe in some of them will believe that, let's save money for the election day so that we can buy votes. So this idea of going around telling people how what you will do when you become a president, many of them don't believe in it. They don't. And even when they go for campaign rallies, they make promises. If I'm elected as president, I'll switch off poverty within 24 hours. I'll give you light within 2 months. I'll fix all the roads within 3 months. It's all promises. At the end of the day, nothing is achieved. I think as they begin the campaign, I think Nigerians should not be asking what they will do. They should be asking how they want to do those things. Because we are tired of rhetorics, campaign promises. And that is why many of them who are there now don't even know what to do by the time they become president, by the time they become governor. So I think we need to begin to ask that question. If you say you want to fix light, we should ask them, how do you want to fix that light? We've seen promises in the last election. Up to today, when we are now asking them what is the problem, they will still be campaigning.
Yes.
We will do it. In the next 5 months, the power supply will increase. Those are promises. They won't tell you how they want to do it. I think we at the media also have a role to play there. So whenever they come to our studio to tell you they will do this, they will do this, we should ask them how do you want to do it? I think that's the hard question that we should be asking, because we've seen in the past where they made promises and at the end of the day, nothing happened.
And it looks like people are beginning to get tired.
Yes, we're tired. And that's why most Nigerians, if you ask them why they are not voting, they will tell you that, look, my vote will not count. And what are you going to vote for? It's the same thing. And that's why some of them also see election day as an avenue to also make much more money from the politicians. Look at what happened in Osun State. A ruling party, it was rumored, it was reported that a ruling party was giving 50,000 naira to electorate to vote for them.
Okay, there was this, the daybreak, which we didn't quite get, which says that INEC has projected over 100 million registered voters ahead of the election. So, we did have INEC around yesterday on the program telling us exactly, just like what Iobasa said, telling us how they're going to do things and not just what they're going to do. That's a lot of people, 100 million registered voters.
Well, I think the most important thing in democracy is to have the people to participate, because democracy is for the people. But strangely, in Nigeria, out of about over 200 million, or maybe even 100 million they are envisaging, I don't think you will have even more than 20 million that will even come up, because there are issues. There are certain things that has thrown me some bit of concern, especially on insecurity. It's quite very, very sad. But those people who really want to tweak what is happening in the system will ensure that they deploy that to frustrate people, to make people get frightened and not go to the polling unit to cast their votes. So beyond all the electoral promises that politicians normally say, I think the most important thing, how do we make the people participate in it? And like my friend had just said, in the past, people have seen, well, we go, we line up, we cast our votes. At the end of the day, what happens? Nothing happened. It's the same story. I think before the present administration came, it was noted that the president said, if he does not improve electricity, you shouldn't vote for him. But of course, he got in there. And you know, it's a different ball game. So I think what he did was simply to remove the presidency, the presidential villa, from the national grid. So I think there are issues, and it is these issues that leaders must look into it. Of course, the president has done a little bit that he could within his power, but the system is one that is simply game to fail. And that is why someone like the late Delegiwa said, Nigeria is God's creation in the impossibility. Because whatever you try to do in this country, somebody somewhere is just trying to undermine it. And that is the unfortunate thing. And why do they do that? They simply want their financial interest.
Talking about financial interest,
yes.
Mr. Simon, still staying with you, because I want to take it from where Disclosure News took it from on the campaign. It says 2027, as campaign begins today, INEC targets over 100 million voters. Political parties earmark over 1.3 trillion naira for advertorials, APC to spend 70% of the total sum. And of course, we've been hearing before the campaign officially flagged off, the perhaps consideration on, gatekeeping certain parties or opposition or whatever from actually putting up, billboards without appending, cost to campaign, outlines. I do not know how this really speaks, because he said something really quite instructive. How will you do these things you're promising you will do? Because at the end of the day, it's not just to put up campaign billboards and, to go on the media to speak, but to spend so much money. What does that tell citizens?
Well, if they tell you they are spending about 1.3 trillion for adverts, it's simply for the photo op. It's for people to read that is what we want to do. But the truth of the matter, if you also look at it, they are not even spending as much as that. But I think one thing I should point here is that the idea of putting campaign billboards, 100 million, some of the states, it is a deliberate effort to frustrate the opposition that is financially weak. Because I can't see a situation where somebody who has no access to funds will raise such money. It's only those people that are in power. So it is something, personally, I don't agree with. I think if you insist on such quantums, sum of funds to be deployed, what you are simply trying is that you are also undermining the democracy. You should allow people to come up and campaign. You should bring something minimal and not much. So, but at the end of the day, the politician will play it according to their game. And there's nothing the Nigerian public can do.
You see, let us interrogate the story itself.
Yeah.
I don't know how the paper, came up with such figure.
Yes.
Whether they talk to APC member or PDP or ADC on how much they're going to spend for
the campaigns.
adverts. So I have not read the details of the stories, but it is difficult to find out from the political parties how much we are going to spend for publicity until after the election.
Yes.
But even at that, the INEC has its own rules. In the INEC rules, we are told that
there are caps.
Yes, for presidential elections, it's 10 billion naira.
Yeah.
But from the figure we are giving now, ordinary publicity is over 10 billion naira. But that is official money, because the money they use in buying vote is not part of this.
Yeah, that's right.
10 billion. The money they use in bribing security, bribing INEC officials, mobilizing their party agents is not part of it. So, but at the end of the day, even INEC itself will not be able to determine how much each political party spends for an election, whether they are exceeding the 10 billion naira for presidential elections and all that. But the truth of the matter is that election anywhere in the world is very expensive.
Yeah.
If you ask Donald Trump how much he spent in the last presidential election for publicity alone, it's over almost the budget of the entire Nigeria. So it's very expensive. Out there is publicity, convincing electorate what you want to do, how you want to do it. You know, most of the campaign are done on TV, radio, and social media and all that. You know, you don't see them. Yeah, they go for rallies and all that, but it's publicity. And some people also determine whether they want to vote for you on your appearance on TV.
Yeah.
We have seen research along that line. But in Nigeria, most politicians, when they are strategizing, they rather keep huge amount of money for vote buying. I think that's exactly what Jonathan was talking about.
Yeah, that's right. In
the
fact,
need for us to de-emphasize, bullying electorate.
Yes.
Imagine in an election, a state elections, where you mobilize virtually all the state governors to go there, the Senate President, the House of Rep member, and other party officials at the National Executive, to do what? To bullying the electorate.
In fact, that's exactly what we want people to go into now, because both former President Jonathan and President Tinubu both spoke on just like you're saying, how to look for new ways in campaigning, constructive ways, where we're going to talk meaningfully to the people. And the daily, if you look at the daily asset, it says 2027, Tinubu, Jonathan seek new rules for peaceful elections. Election not a do or die affair, according to President Tinubu. And just like you said, Jonathan warns against turning off-cycle polls into power contests.
Yeah, what I want to say before now is if you look at what happened in Ocean, one must commend the president for what he did. I think before the elections, people were saying, oh, he's making sure he's fighting to ensure that APC gets it. But at the end of the day, everything went, and the man who won emerged. But it is condemnable for governors to simply troop to a particular state and on a solidarity visit. Some of those governors are proving failures in their own state. They've not done anything. No, let's just be fair. Let's just be truthful. So is it because you are from the same party and your colleague in the other party is contested? You are just going there on a solidarity visit? But I'm very happy at what happened. The president I think he was the first person to call the governor and congratulate him. That shows he's a Democrat. And you even see it. The man has said he's going to support Tinubu. The presidential candidate of the Accord Party said he's going to support Tinubu. So there was nothing there. So the party was just an extension of the APC. So, but our lawmakers should begin to take this into consideration. If there is need for a law to be enacted, that governors should not be crisscrossing in trying to identify with their fellow colleagues that are facing contest. I think that is very, very important.
Yes, but beyond commending President Tinubu for what happened in something, I think the real people that we should commend are the people of Osun State.
The resilience.
Look at what happened before the elections. There was a deliberate attempt on the part of the opposition to intimidate people. Many people were arrested, some people were detained. Even on the election day, people were arrested. Some people were killed. So in order to create fear, that people at the end of the day, so that the people would not be able to come out. But look at the turnouts, almost about 43-45% turnout, and they were determined to ensure that their vote counts. Look at, even after voting, after counting the ballots at the polling unit, you see Okada people following the vehicle that was taken
bumper to bumper
to the local government collection center. From there, they followed them to the state collection center, and they were there throughout the night, ensuring that nobody, like what happened in others, so nobody comes in the middle of the night and begin to change the figure. They were there until the result was announced the next morning. They were there. Those are the people that were determined to ensure that their vote counts. I think Nigerians have a huge lesson to learn from Osun State.
Yes.
if you participate, if people come out massively to vote, those who are changing the figure will find it very difficult to change the figure, and that's exactly what happened in Osun State. But if we say, oh, you just vote, you go home, I mean, there are some, people like most of the governors who went there, they went there to to manipulate the process.
Yeah.
Okay,
but they meant a very strong resistance. Good people of Osun State.
Yeah.
So perhaps
that has actually put a completely different complexion on campaigns now.
Yeah,
the ruling party have now been told to wake up.
Yeah,
the president may have for granted.
But the president may have in a way maybe have ensured that there was a free and fair election. But people will also argue that it was when the president discovered that there was
people were resistant.
That he now said, "Oh, let's give up. Let us not go beyond."
Okay,
those are conspiracy theorists.
Okay, the idea that president also helped in ensuring free and fair elections is also a conspiracy theorist.
That could also work for them in 2027.
So, don't take credit in what you don't
deserve credit for.
All right,
you should be very careful.
Let's look at how, just to what you're saying. The Whistler also says, Osun, 43 billion naira spent, 29 killed, as vote buying security saw election cost investigation. But what you also want to look at the riders to that story, Doc, it says political spending exceeds half of state's 2025 IGR. At Pabio, Dangote called me to delete Osun election updates. I mean, that's coming from Davido. Oyebamiji accepts INEC. But I think the most important thing to look at is the expenditure, is the insecurity. And another paper says, oh, the military is ready, geared up for 2027 elections, statements like that. How do you look at this, as we go to the 2027 election, campaigns have started, look at the cost of elections.
Exactly, that was the point I was trying to make.
Look at the cost.
You can determine the cost of the elections after the elections. I'm sure some APC must have said, oh, look, we lost the election, look, it's part of the amount we spent for the elections and all that. And that is the point we are making. So, ordinary obstacle election, look at the money they spend. We're not talking about presidential elections where you have to go to 36 states of the federation, including the federal capital territory. As for whether the military is ready, I think that statement is, for me, is a very reckless statement.
Yeah, because
the military has no business.
It's INEC they should be ready. No?
And the military has no business in conducting elections. The INEC is also very clear. It's the police that is in charge of maintaining peace and order during election, not the military.
The
military has no business with
being ready for
That's the
election.
defense minister.
Yes, for this minister to be saying that the military has no business with the military. They have other security issues that they should be
dealing with,
focused on or dealing with now. The issue of terrorism and other banditry issues across the country, and leave the election for the police and other paramilitary to handle. They try to do that in Osun State, again the Osun State, where the military went there trying to intimidate people. But we saw a situation where somebody was even dragging a rifle with the military. I said, you can't do this, you can't cross this place. And those are people that were determined. So I think most Nigerians now have been energized by the action of the people of Osun State. And those who plan to ring election in 2027 should be ready for war. I think Nigerians are determined now to say our election must count.
Can we take a look at what the peace accord, that seems to be a pretty popular term now in countdowns to elections. Everybody signing peace accords to promise that they're not going to go into violence. I'm not too sure how many of these accords have been kept, but it seems that it was kept in Osun because they signed all sorts of accords there. Now they're having accords signed ahead of the presidential election.
It's ceremonial. A lot of people, parties signed the peace accord before Osun State election. Look at the number of people that were killed. So it's ceremonies. At the end of the day, well, it's good for optics, for headlines, for news items, but in terms of keeping to those to that promises, nobody. Because
you can't sue anybody for not.
Yes. So if they were ready for peace, why did they deploy their talks to Osun State, or the government deploy their peace to Osun State? So what was the likes of Edo State governor doing in Osun State? Akpabio, the governor of Imo State, the governor of Lagos State, the governor of Kaduna State. What were they doing in Osun State? What's their business in Osun State? Were they the one to vote? So, and that is part of...
Some say they are showing solidarity.
There's no solidarity. There's no solidarity. They should stay, if they want to give, if you want to assist the guy with funds and all, they should give them money. But not on the election day.
To be physically present.
Physically present. You have no business being in that state. Because at the end of the day, it is the people in that state that will determine who they want to recruit as a governor. Not you as a governor of Edo State, and who went there. I think the most annoying aspect of it, my own governor of Edo State, went there with some talks who were intimidating the people of Osun State, abusing the governor of a state. You can't try that in other state. You will not get out of that place alive. You see talks that went there with governor of Edo State, abusing the governor of that state.
And well, that's what he thinks of the
And
youth is capable of
for
doing.
me, that was silly.
And Daily Sun further says, Wike says, if Tinubu wanted APC to win, he would have drafted me to Osun State. Mr. Simon.
It's quite sad. I am a student of language. Meanings of words are derived from those things that are unsaid. It's simply sad. He was not supposed to say such a thing. The people of the state have come out to say, this is what we want. And the election has been described as very fair and credible. So it was not for him.
Is the word drafted that I'm interested? I mean, he would have drafted me to Osun. I mean, that sounds more like
What was he going to do in Osun State? To manipulate the process or to rig the
Let's
elections?
thank God the President Tinubu himself has come out to say that elections are not a do or die affair, which suggests that he's not ready to draft anybody to any state coming 2027. Okay, let's move to, it may not have made lead headlines in all papers, but it definitely made the front page of the Business NG, and this is the issue of cement hitting 15,000 per bag. You know, and the FCCPC says it's time to look into what's causing all that.
Well, it's quite sad. It's sad because when we have the raw materials for making cement in abundance, and we are not having it being sold at a cheaper price, then it is something that tells us that the prices are manipulated. People have always said, let's allow demand and supply. No, there are cabals, there are groups within that make sure even if you bring 1 billion tons of cement, they will hide it somewhere and bringing it in a piecemeal. Why is it that in Nigeria, where we have everything that we need to produce cement, we have it on ground? The only thing that is imported are the machines. Why are we not selling it cheaply? Well, someone has said that because the government is using cement to construct roads, but that is not just it. Because we have it in abundance that we are even exporting it. So, is a manipulation, somebody somewhere is controlling the price. I know there was a particular time one of the cement companies said he was going to sell his own at 7,000. But the other said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. But they can still get it and make money. And that's why we look at their post-tax profits of the cement. It's high. Nobody is talking about it. Come on, man. And we're talking about housing. We want housing every now and then. But the major ingredients in that cement is high. Do you understand? The raw material, what we need for housing most is cement. And you can't just get it. How will you be buying cement at 15,000 per bag?
You see, I think we need
It's quite sad.
Yeah, I think we need to commend that commission led by Tunji Bello. You know, since he came and he has been very up and doing. He sees that the commission is alive to his constitutional responsibilities. He's been doing quite a lot. You know, this idea of cement, and that's why when this issue of refinery came up, there was this argument, oh, we should not allow monopoly, you know. Because when you have a few persons or one or two persons, you know, controlling an industry, the possibility that they can manipulate the prices of their goods is there, you know. And that's exactly what is happening in the cement industry. Because maybe there are high demand for it now. There are several housings, you know, building constructions taking place across the country because people are investing in property and housing. And even the major road that we are constructing today, they are using cement. You know, so because there are high demand for it, they also capitalize on that to also increase the prices of the cement or the products. You know, so that's quite unfortunate.
So what do you think the Consumer Protection Commission can do because it's going to wait? Because Simon said something about there being cartels.
They have a responsibility to intervene, and that's exactly what they are doing. They need to call them to order. I said, look, you can't do this. You know, so even when they discover that they are manipulating the price, they can sanction them. They've done that in the past. They can sanction them and call them to order. You know, even when the fuel issue also came up, they also invited those players in the market and said, look at the prices. You must adjust your prices. And they did that. So in this case, they've also, I'm sure they're going to summon them and show them, give them the statistics. You know, and I said, look, what can you do? You must reduce your price, or otherwise.
What kind of punitive actions are open? Because that's the question I asked.
They can sanction them. They can sanction them.
That's what I mean. What are these sanctions likely to consist of?
They pay fine.
Okay.
They can pay fine. And then with the money they collected from the people, they can refund such money to the federal government, and they have a way. So they will sanction them so that next time they will not do that kind of thing. So they can fine them. Money running to millions or billions of naira, they can fine them. It's possible.
See, for me, there's nothing they can do. It's simply noise. Because we have a system in this country that all what people need is just to make money. They may do that for 1 way or 2 ways, but it will still revert back. In this country, when prices go up, it's always difficult to bring them. Not just because of anything, because the people themselves are problems. To themselves.
How?
Exactly. Every Nigerian, whether a company, whether it's a corporate body or people, they want to make money at all costs. And when there is an opportunity, they make sure they go for it. There was a particular time, one of the cement companies said they were going to bring down the prices of their cement as a certain amount of money. And the other said, no, you can't do it. Even the marketers, those people that are involved in the business, said, no, you're going to bring down our own profit. Why is it that in this country you give a contract of 10 billion and the profit margin is almost over 8 billion. You see, there is no system. When you put system in place, that is where things work. In this country, there is no system. Anybody can wake up today and say, this cup is 10 naira. And somebody say, no, I will be selling my own 20 naira. And before you know, they collaborate and insist this is what we want. So this issue of demand and supply, economic forces, does not work in this country. Because if it is working, the price of cement cannot be about 5,000. 6,000.
You see, but when you say a strong regulatory framework.
So what I'm simply trying to say is that all this noise about regulatory framework, this and that, no. There is some certain problems in the system. And it's like we change that system.
Are you saying that absolutely nothing's going to be done?
It works. It works. It's not about noise.
Yes.
If you have a strong, that's why you have regulating agencies like the FCCPC. That's why, because if you have a strong regulatory agency, that's why in every sector you have a regulating agencies that is, controlling, managing the what is happening in that sectors. So if you have a strong regulation agencies, they can call the players to order. You have them in virtually all the sectors, the telecommunication, you have the petroleum sectors, oil and gas sectors. Even in, you have regulation agencies. So if you have a strong regulation agency that is not compromised, they can change the system.
So I think the point that Simon's trying to make is that they do. I mean, if you have strong, but how strong are they? I think that's the.
And what are the prospects of strengthening those regulatory framework? At least that's the issue. Because the people that are behind those regulatory framework, they also want to get what they want to get. Simple.
Not all of them.
It may not be all of them, but the very few that are standing for the truth cannot make any impact.
They can, if we are determined.
Yeah.
The FCCPC, for example, has shown that with a strong regulatory framework, certain bad behavior can be corrected. And they've done that. Recently, the big tech, they found almost about $500 million. And so eventually when those guys saw what was happening, they quickly went to court. They are in court now. At the High Court, the FCCPC won.
Yes.
So they appealed. So I'm sure next time, the big tech will not be...
They won't try that again.
Will not be involved in such bad behavior.
See,
wait. So the point I'm making is that it is not true that the system will not work. Depending on who is manning that system. Like I said, if you have a regulation agency that is not compromised by anybody, the system will change. And that's exactly what we require in this country. It's not about noise.
Yes. What I want to say here, there was a particular time, FCCPC said when you get to a store, the price of the product must be there. You must see it. If you go to most of the stores in Abuja, you see a particular price attached to a product. Take it there, it's different. There's nothing. Do you understand?
How many people have complained? That's another thing too. How many people
complain? You see, people people say
people don't complain in this country too, and we just blame the bodies.
Let me tell you, several departmental stores have been shut down by this same agency for
this kind of
for
thing.
engaging in bad behavior. We've shut them down. So they came to us, and they later sent on undertaking that henceforth they'll behave very well. So that's exactly what I'm saying. So when you shut down such departmental store or supermarket, it will serve as a deterrent to others that want to involve in that kind of dubious behavior. Like I said, if you have a strong regulating agency, things will change. I'm not giving hope on some of this that is happening. To say that it's all noise, I don't subscribe to that.
All right, so there's some commentaries from our social media
co-reviewers,
some of them who actually speak truth. Says Nigerians are hearing progress from politicians while hunger and poverty is hitting harder on masses. That's from Sunday Obiano. And then you also have Ebony Francis saying, but there's a limitation, and this is sort of our last previous headlines. There's a limitation to the amount that political parties can spend on election. But the funniest thing is that we have good laws in Nigeria, but we don't implement them, which is probably what you were speaking to.
Yeah.
Very pathetic. And Maestro Connect speaks to the cement issue. Says cement now at an all-time high is preposterous. Government should stop saying that it has no business being in business.
Exactly.
Benue Cement, Sokoto Cement, Textile Mills, Ondo's Owina Dam, etc., all failed projects. And these are some comments coming from some
You
reviewers.
see, at this stage, you can't say that government has no business in business. Yes, it's kind of a little bit of a mixture. Because I'm very sure if government had been involved in certain things, things will have not have been worse as it is. But now we just allowed all these capitalists, those who that think of nothing but profit, profit, profit. Government is not all about business. It's about looking, at the welfare of the masses. So if you don't take into consideration the welfare of the masses, you have a problem. But you have people who are very few that are in charge of all these corporate bodies. They make billions of naira as profit, and nothing comes to the poor. At the end of the day, you say, oh, it's taxes. What are the taxes? Do they even pay? So those are the issues we also look at.
Okay, look, gents, I think we can go on and on about this probably till tomorrow. Because cement is something that hits hard on everybody, especially into construction. Gents, I think we just have to leave it like that for now. Musa and Simon, many thanks for coming on our review, making our Wednesday bright, right from the beginning. Go out there and have yourselves a wonderful. I'm sure you're going to be busy with all the campaigns and stuff starting.
Especially Doc, I'm looking at
Especially
that.
Doc, yeah.
Absolutely.
They will tell it to you, like I said, when they come to you and they promise you so many things, ask them what they're going to do. So,
all right, it's the Wednesday edition of Kakaki, the African Voice. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking. Yes, talking about the kickoff of campaigns leading to the 2027 elections.
Thank you.
Get